Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the George W. Norris Legislative Chamber for the second day of the 107th Legislature second session. Our chaplain for today is Senator DeBoer. Please rise.
Colleagues, today marks the festival of Epiphany in the Western Christian Church liturgical calendar, the day which celebrates the Matthew 2 visit of the Magi to Jesus following a star. Please join me in prayer. Abba, Father, God, today we ask for the wisdom of the Magi. Grant us the wisdom of science, like the Magi who were able to study the stars to find Jesus. Grant us the wisdom of inspiration that helped them understand the star would lead them to a new kind of king. Grant us the courage of wisdom that told them not to do the politically expedient thing, but the right thing, as they defied King Herod's orders to find the babe and return to him. Grant us the wisdom of a generous heart, which compelled them to bring expensive gifts to a child born into a manger, to a nobody powerful in an out-of-the-way place. As we embark on this new year, grant peace and mercy to all in this building, and give these 49 senators the wisdom of your Magi to put what is right above all else. In the name of the Creator of all the stars, the one who is heralded by the stars, and the one who reminds us each year of that sacred story of God with us. Amen.
Thank you, Senator DeBoer. Senator Lowe, you're recognized for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. I call to order the second day of the 107th Legislature second session. Senators, please record your presence. Roll call.
Mr. Clerk, please record.
I have a quorum present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any corrections for the journal?
I have no corrections.
Thank you. Are there messages, reports, or announcements?
Mr. President, acknowledgement of reports from the various standing committees regarding interim study resolutions and the results from those. Priority bill designation, Senator Clements, LB 310. Senator Brewer, 773. Senator Linehan, 364. That's all that I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Speaker Hilgers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. As I previewed yesterday, I wanted to give everyone a little bit of an update on a couple different topics here this morning. I'm going to start with a memo that's going to be is in the process of being handed out, which is an update on the floor procedures for this session. You will find in that memo that almost everything, including the filibuster rule, is identical to what we did last year. So the filibuster rule, as you recall, we had 842 that worked very well last year. There are, however, two slight modifications I want to give the body notice of now. They're not material, but they're important to give everyone notice. The first one, it relates to final reading time limits. So if you recall, it was 842, but I had incorporated a rule last year in which if there wasn't a motion for cloture that had been adopted on a particular bill at general file or select file, then the time limit on final reading was not 2 hours, it was 4 hours. And the reason I had done that was to avoid any kind of sandbagging on final reading, to make sure if there was a real substantive debate on a particular issue that we would have enough time to debate that issue. That being said, in this session, we don't have a lot of time, and we actually didn't really see that come up last year. And so the first modification is we're going to do 842, and it will be 2 hours, regardless of whether there had been a motion for cloture successfully adopted on either of the prior two stages of debate, with the exception that if there is a last-second substantive filibuster that really feels like a sandbag, we will go to 4 hours. But the default should be 2. We really haven't seen that in my time in the legislature, so I actually am not concerned about that. But I want to be very crystal clear in the notice that I'm providing the body. So that's change number one. Change number two is to the time limits for A bills. So in my time in the legislature, we have never really especially treated A bills. We have had 8 hours, say, or 3 hours on the prior, before I was speaker, on a particular underlying bill, and then we would also have the same amount of time on an A bill. When we're dealing with this session, in the limited amount of time that we have after today only 58 days, we have over 100 priority bills that we anticipate coming, plus work that we have left over from last year, plus the budget bills that we know are coming. We simply do not have the time to have 8 hours on general file for a bill, and then an additional 8 hours on the A bill. So we will not change the rule for the underlying bill, the substantive bill. It will be 842, as I mentioned, but A bills will be just 1 hour, with the exception if it actually is a somewhat complicated A bill, we will do 2 hours. But in my experience in the legislature, there has not been an A bill that I can recall that on the substance ever required more than an hour to talk through. That hopefully will save us a little bit of time as we go into this session. So you can look at that memo. It lays it all out. In addition to the floor procedures, that memo also includes a little bit about what we have got coming up this year. And as I just mentioned, we know we have some really big issues coming. The budget, of course, we have two budgets that will be coming up, we think, in February, March, that time frame. That's going to take up a lot of time. And we have a number of other of your priorities that we want to, my job is to ensure that we get as many of those heard as we possibly can. It's going to take a lot of coordination between the chairs, my office, and you to make sure we're strategically taking advantage of every single day that we have a floor debate here in the legislature. Otherwise, there's a high likelihood we will not get through all the priority bills this year. There simply is not enough time for us to be able to do that unless we're all working together. As we approach debate this year, and by the way, next week, floor debate, will be an all-day floor debate next week. We're going to get started right away. Here, and this is in the memo, but it's important to emphasize. My priority in terms of scheduling bills will be as follows. First, it will be 2022 priority bills. I already have had 4 priority bills designated for 2022 priority bills. few of those are going to be debated next week, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. That's number one. Number two is 2021 carryover priority bills. So those are not bills that were designated as priorities and then didn't have a motion for cloture adopted or failed on general file or the like. Those are bills that you may remember at request of the introducer were held over. There are a number of those bills. They're at the end of the memo that I've handed out. Please take a close look at those. Those are my next priority. And then the third is worksheet order. So those are the orders I will be scheduling things, 2022 priorities, 2021 priorities, and then worksheet order. All that is in the memo. I do want to point out for scheduling, as we go into next week, we will be, so the bills that we're looking at potentially for next week, the second memo, as I sort of go into my second memo, which lays out the entire schedule today and tomorrow, is bill introduction. As we go into next week, I want to highlight a couple things. We last year tried as much as possible, and I think with a large amount of success, to ensure that the body had as much notice in advance of as many bills as we could, especially difficult bills that we thought would draw a filibuster. That worked well last year, in my estimation. We're going to continue to do that. However, this first part of the session, I'm asking for as much flexibility and understanding from your perspective, because as we get in and have a number of new priorities designated, and as new bills are getting introduced, but they're not through the committee process yet, the first week or two are going to be far more in flux than I would like, but it is the reality of the circumstances in front of us. So I'm going to do my best to give you as much notice about the issues that are coming, but we all have to be nimble working together. Because if I get, as an example, a 2022 priority designation on a bill on general file tomorrow, that goes to the top of the line, and we may be working on that next week. So I'll give as much advance notice as possible, but at least for these next couple of weeks, it will be more difficult for me to say, next Wednesday we'll be dealing with this issue, next Thursday morning we'll be dealing with this other issue. I will do my very best to do that. I do have, as I mentioned, 4 bills that have been designated 22 priorities. One of them was just introduced, and so will not come up next week. There are 3 others that are on general file now that have been designated as priorities. The first one is LR 14, which is Senator Halloran's Convention of States resolution. The second is LB 310, which is Senator Clement's bill relating to inheritance tax. And the third number is Senator Linehan's scholarship tax credit bill. As you know, a bill that failed on general file or any stage of debate in 2021 or this year, in fact, can come back if it is reprioritized. So those are the 3. I have a fourth, again, as I mentioned, but it was just introduced, and so it's not relevant for next week. I don't know precisely what day that those will come up. If they come up next week, I anticipate probably all 3 of those will be coming up next week. Those are the 3 bills that I've got. More likely than not, I have to work with Senator Halloran, but I think the Convention of States will come up Monday. That's my best projection today. As we go into next week, the schedule is Monday we start at 11. The reason we're starting at 11 is at 10, we have a really important tutorial on the public comment system. As I've mentioned a couple times on the mic, we introduced that last year. It was a new system. It was new for the public. It was new for you. It was new for your staff. It actually worked out very well as a new system. We had thousands of comments that came in. We actually had a number of people who found it very valuable. We've made a number of iterations and improvements to that. We're also broadening its use to be the new mechanism for position statements. So we're doing it as a broader, more accessible system for the public, but we're also really want to ensure we've done some things internally on the Uninet that you all and your staff have an opportunity to really utilize that to its fullest degree. So next Monday at 10, there will be a tutorial from our IT staff, and our new IT director, Jane Schofield, is going to be sending out an email scheduling that. So please look for that and make sure if you can't make it that your staff is there. I found the comment system to be incredibly valuable and helpful to get really real-time feedback from the public as we proceed. The schedule next week will be 11 o'clock. As I mentioned, we'll end at 5. On Tuesday, we will start at 9 and end at 5. On Wednesday, we'll start at 9 and end at 5. And on Thursday, the governor has the State of the State. We will check in at 9:45 and end. His State of the State will be at 10:30 or 10 o'clock, I'm sorry. And we will end no later than 1. So that's the schedule for next week. The week after that, we will start committee hearings and we'll have half-day debate. We are not doing full-day committee hearings. I think you all know that, but it's worth, again, repeating that. Big picture schedule-wise, March 3rd is the end of our committee hearings. March 8th is the beginning of full-day debate. March 14th, the very next week, we will start late nights. I cannot overemphasize to you how important it is to be strategic about the first half of the session, because there is almost no time after committee hearings to get done with all the work that we have to get done, including the budget bills and all the priorities. And if there's almost no better example for you to see that in real time than to say we only have 1 week, only 1 week of full day debates before we go to night debate. So the rest of the memo has all the other deadlines, has the deadlines for speaker priority designations requests, for your designation, your priority, your committee priority designation requests. It also has a tentative deadline for, I believe it's in there, on consent calendar. I will do a consent calendar similar to what I did last year, where it's a few, once we get going, maybe 4, 5, 7 consent calendars Monday morning. We will generally start Mondays after next week at 10 o'clock, but that's only for the first couple of months. The back half of the schedule, we're going to be here on the floor as much as we possibly can to get as much work as we possibly can get done. I think those are the primary announcements I have this morning. I will update you if I can tomorrow with a little bit more clarity on next week's schedule, but at least those 3 bills, you should be thinking very likely to all 3 of those come up, and look at the carryover priorities on the back of the memo that I sent. Please look at those two memos really closely. And at a minimum, please have your staff look through the second memo that has all the dates and times, because there are a lot of different dates in there, including the judiciary address from the Chief Justice, and a number of other scheduling deadlines that I think are really important to an effective session. So I appreciate in advance all of your good work and cooperation and coordination as we strategically approach this session, so that we can get as much done as we can for the people of Nebraska. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Speaker Hilgers. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh would like to recognize Dr. Joe Miller of Omaha, serving as Physician of the Day. Thank you for coming. We will continue with introduction of new bills.
Okay for me to go, or you want, okay. Mr. President, new bills. LB 802 is a bill by Senator Hughes. It's a bill for enacting the Nebraska Wheat Resources Act. It changes powers of the Nebraska Wheat Development, Utilization, and Marketing Board. LB 803, bill by Senator Hughes, bill for enacting in Games and Parks, redefines the terms. It changes provisions relating to limited permits for deer, antelope, wild turkey, or elk. 804 by Senator Hughes, a bill for enacting to the Nebraska Power Review Board. It changes the compensation for certain board members. 805 is by Senator Hughes, relating to the Noxious Weed Control Act. It changes provisions relating to prioritization of applications and intent to appropriate funds. 806, Senator Bostelman, relates to drainage, changes the provision relating to drainage by a landowner. 807 by Senator Brandt. It's a bill for enacting the county government, changes provision relating to tax levy and county funding for nonprofit county historical association or society. 808, Senator Moorfield, relating to Uniform Controlled Substances Act, changes provisions relating to the schedules of controlled substances and harmonizes provisions. 809, Senator Moser. It's a bill for enacting to water, changes provision relating to the use of land acquisition and source water loan fund. LB 810 is by Senator John Cavanaugh. It's a bill for enacting to juvenile facilities. It changes provisions relating to room confinement of juveniles and required reports. 811 is by Senator Dorn, relates to the Nebraska Real Estate License Act. It changes provisions relating to auctioneers of real estate. 812 is by Senator Hickelman. Bill for enacting the Pharmacy Practice Act. It provides for vaccine administration by pharmacy technicians. 813 is Senator Hickelman. It's a bill for enacting the appropriations. It states intent relating to fund transfers and appropriations for trails. Legislative bill. Thank you. 814, Senator McKinney. It's a bill for an act relating to legislature states findings, provides for racial impact statements for legislation. 815, Senator McKinney. It's a bill for an act relating to public health that adopts the Diaper Changing Accommodation Act. 816, Senator McKinney. A bill for an act relating to the Nebraska Treatment and Corrections Act. It requires collection of certain data upon admission of persons committed to the department. 817, Senator Linehan. Bill for an act relating to revenue taxation. changes provisionally in the examination of financial records and certain reporting requirements. Legislative Bill 793 by Senator McCollister. It's a bill for regulating the Election Act. It provides for ranked choice voting for certain city or village offices. 794, Senator McCollister, relating to the Election Act. It provides for nonpartisan election of state treasurer and auditor. 795, Senator Flood, bill for regulating the Nebraska Uniform Prudent Management of Institutional Funds Act. Changes provisionally in the release of modification restrictions on the management, investment, or purpose of an institutional fund. 796, Urban Affairs Committee, bill for act relating to the Community Development Law, changes provisionally in the requirements. 797, Urban Affairs Committee, relating to the Community Development Law, provides for removal of substandard and blighted area designations. 798, Urban Affairs Committee, relates to the Community Development Law, changes provisionally in extremely blighted areas. 799, Urban Affairs, bill for regulating the Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act, updates a federal reference. LB 800 by the Urban Affairs Committee, it's a bill for regulating the cities of the metropolitan class. It amends numerous sections of law. It changes provisionally in city officers, elections, powers, duties, public improvements, subdividing and plotting, consolidation of cities and villages, ordinance, planning and zoning, fiscal management, city departments, claims and awards, bridges, parking facility, landmark res. It eliminates provisionally the municipal code yards. 801 is a bill by Senator Hughes. It's a bill for an act relating to the Imagine Nebraska Act. It redefines qualified location.
Mr. Clerk, for new bills.
Thank you, Mr. President. Legislative Bill 818 by Senator Linehan. It's a bill for an act related to the Sports Arena Facility Financing Assistance Act to define and redefine terms, to authorize the use of state assistance to pay for nearby parking facilities, change provision relating to limitations on state assistance, harmonize provisions, repeal original sections. 819 by Senator Linehan, a bill for an act relating to revenue and taxation to eliminate provisions relating to a tax study and to outright repeal section 773115. LB 820 by Senator Matt Hansen. It's a bill for an act relating to municipalities to change the population threshold for cities of the metropolitan class and cities of the primary class to harmonize provisions and repeal the original sections. 821 by Senator Hansen. It's a bill for an act relating to municipalities to adopt the Aid Municipalities Act, create a fund, change provision relating to budget limitations, provide a duty for the revisor of statutes, and repeal the original sections. 822, Senator Matt Hansen, a bill for an act relating to the Motor Vehicle Operators License Act, change provision relating to the reinstatement fees for an operator's license, repeal the original sections. 823 by Senator Ben Hansen. It's a bill for an act relating to the Administrative Procedures Act to prohibit state agencies from imposing annual filing and reporting requirements on charitable organizations as prescribed. 824 by Senator Ben Hansen. It's a bill for an act relating to personal care services to include bathing as an activity of daily living and to repeal the original sections. 825 by Senator Lindstrom. It's a bill for an act relating to revenue and taxation, change provision related to taxation of benefits received under the Federal Social Security Act, to repeal the original section. 826 by Senator Lindstrom. It's a bill for an act related to the Public Funds Deposit Security Act to redefine terms, repeal the original section, declare an emergency. 827, Senator Lindstrom. Bill for an act relating to revenue and taxation to allow income tax deduction for the cost of certain property and for certain research or experimental expenditures as prescribed. 828 by Senator Breezy. It's a bill for an act relating to elections, provide a violation and a penalty for unlawful manipulation of certain elections as prescribed, harmonize provisions, repeal original sections. 829, Senator DeBoer. It's a bill for an act relating to offenses against animals to change penalties and sentencing provisions as prescribed, change the deadline for filing a hearing application relating to seized animals, and repeal the original section. 830 by Senator DeBoer, a bill for an act relating to children and families, change provision relating to cash medical support, repeal the original sections. 831 by Senator Michaela Cavanaugh. It's a bill for an act relating to criminal procedures to name an act to provide for caregiver diversion programs, provide for conditional release of pregnant and postpartum inmates, to harmonize provisions, repeal the original sections. 832, Senator Michaela Cavanaugh. It's a bill for an act relating to revenue and taxation, change individual income tax brackets and rates as prescribed, harmonize provisions, repeal the original sections. 833 by Senator Pauls. It's a bill for an act relating to civil procedure, change the statute of limitation on certain civil actions for sexual assault of the child, and to repeal the original sections. 834 by Senator Hunt, a bill for an act relating to the Wage and Hour Act to amend Section 48-1202, redefine terms, and repeal the original sections. 835 by Senator Hunt. It's a bill for an act relating to the Educational Savings Plan Trust to define and redefine terms, change powers and duties, harmonize provisions, repeal the original sections. 836 by Senator Hunt. It's a bill for an act relating to the Community Development Act to require the review of substandard and blighted area designations and extremely blighted area designations as prescribed. 837 by Senator Hunt. It's a bill for an act relating to the Nebraska Energy Code to require the Director of Environment and Energy to provide information to the legislature as prescribed. 838 by Senator Colderman. It's a bill for an act relating to the State Department of Education to provide for an aid program, declare intent to appropriate funds. 839 by the Government Committee. It's a bill for an act relating to truth and deception examiners to change provision relating to truth and deception examinations, repeal the licensing of Truth and Deceptive Examiners Act to provide a duty for the revisor of statutes, and to repeal original sections. 840 by Senator Brewer, a bill for an act related to legal notices to change related publication and rates and to repeal original sections. 841 by Senator Brewer. It's a bill for an act relating to the Election Act to provide for the registration to vote and application for ballots for members of the Nebraska National Guard, provide for application for ballots for emergency response providers, harmonize provisions, repeal the original sections. 842, Senator Brewer, the bill for Knucklehead Civic and Community Center Financing Act, to define and redefine terms to authorize grants of assistance to tribal governments as prescribed, to harmonize provisions and to repeal original sections. 843 by Senator Brewer, it's a bill for Knuckle relating to elections, to define and redefine terms, change provision relating to petitions, filing, mailing, voting deadlines, appointment of election workers, voter registration, registered voter list, confidential records, primary election ballots, polling places, assistance for voting, replacement ballots, poll watchers, county canvassing board, election costs, recall election, initiative and referendum petition, electioneering, to eliminate certain filing requirements, provide requirements for distribution, application of voter registration, and the request for ballots and early voting, provide requirements for ballots for early voting, provide for canceling elections as prescribed, to harmonize provisions and repeal the original sections. 844 by Senator McCollister, bill for enactment in the legislature, provide requirements for filling vacancies in the legislature. 845 by Senator Salama, it's a bill for enactment into boycotts to adopt the Anti-Discrimination Against Israel Act and declare an emergency. 846 by Senator Salama, it's a bill for enacting the Nebraska Banking Act to change provision related to an annual audit and to repeal the original sections. 847 by Senator Wishart, it's a bill for enacting the Political Subdivision Construction Alternative Act to redefine political subdivision to include certain utilities and power districts and to repeal the original sections. 848, Senator Halloran, it's a bill for enacting the Animal Health and Diseases Control Act, change the powers of the Department of Agriculture and duties of owners or custodian of dead animals relating to catastrophic livestock mortality or euthanization, to harmonize provisions and repeal the original sections. $849 by Senator Bostar is a bill for enacting to the Election Act, provide a penalty for certain violations relating to recall elections and to repeal the original sections. 850, Senator Bostar, it's a bill for enacting to property taxes, change related to the cancellation and extinguishment of certain delinquent taxes and to repeal the original sections. 851 by Senator Wishart, it's a bill for enacting crime and offenses, change enforcement procedures relating to certain crimes involving animals, to harmonize provisions and repeal the original sections. That's all I have at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, new bills.
Thank you, Mr. President. New bills, legislative bill 852 by Senator Day. Provide for behavioral health points of contact. Provide duties for the State Department of Education, the Division of Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services, and school districts. 853 by Senator Day. It's a bill for enacting revenue and taxation. Provide a homestead exemption for certain disabled veterans as prescribed. Harmonize provisions. Repeal original sections. 854 by Senator Day. Bill for enacting the reports of child abuse or neglect to require notice as prescribed and repeal original sections. 855 by Senator Day. It's a bill for enacting the Medical Assistance Act, harmonize coverage provision with federal law and repeal original sections. 856 by Senator Day. It's a bill for enacting the Aging and Disability Resource Act to define terms, change provision relating to reimbursement for services to harmonize provisions and to repeal original sections. 857 by Senator Day. It's a bill for enacting the Medical Assistance Act to require the Department of Health and Human Services to implement express lane eligibility, state intent regarding appropriations to harmonize provisions, and repeal original sections. 858 by Senator Clements. It's a bill for enacting the Election Act, amend Section 32-101 to restrict funding for elections to harmonize provisions and to repeal original sections. 859 by Senator Clements. It's a bill for enacting the public health departments to require city county health departments to obtain the approval from the Department of Health and Human Services in issuing directed health measures to harmonize provisions and to repeal original sections. New resolutions, LR 268CA, offered by Senator Breezy, is a proposed constitutional amendment to provide for recall of the governor and members of the legislature as provided by law. 269CA by Senator Hunt, a proposed constitutional amendment to provide for the appointment of a commission on redistricting to draw and recommend to the legislature the boundaries for election districts. LR 270 by Senator Gregory and others. It would express condolences to the family of former Senator Cap Dirks that will be laid over. Priority bill designation, Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, LB 376. Motion from Senator Hunt to indefinitely postpone LB 781 to be printed in the Journal. Name add, Senator Salama to 643, Senator Brewer to 783, Senator Walsh to 792, Senator Flood to LR 14. Finally, a priority motion to adjourn until Friday, January 7th, 2022 at 11 o'clock a.m.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. We are adjourned.